Okay, destination. We're both tied into the same destination on our phones. You're using Google, and I'm using Waze. And yours says we will get there at 12:54. Mine says we'll get there at 12:37.
Well, Google's always right.
I don't know. Waze has been a little bit more accurate in terms of destination.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
yeah.
Waze was
yeah.
telling us to go north, like way back there. And then it went and dropped off the face of the earth. I'm not going with Waze.
Because we didn't have any coverage. My phone. That's my phone. That was not Waze. I'm saying that.
It was still saying that we were going the wrong way while we were going the right way.
No, because we lost coverage, network coverage. Verizon obviously.
So we're going the wrong way according to Waze, but we're going to get there earlier.
Correct.
We made it.
Yeah. Looks like someone owes me $20.
I said lunch. Lunch. Anyways, hey, we're here at the Gandy Dancer. It is like a 1930 style house. It's just right outside of the historic downtown of Denison. So you'll be sleeping on the couch. I'll be sleeping in the king size bed. This house is pretty cool. It's railroad themed. Why? Because Denison became Denison because of the railroad. It was a boom town because of the railroad, and the railroad just goes right through the town. So it's pretty cool. You can hear the train come through the town pretty often. So we've gone inside. You got to check this place out. It's beautiful, and I think you're really gonna like coming out here.
Dustin, what are you doing?
Oh, am I bothering you? We just traveled 4 hours. I'm a little hungry. I'd like a little lunch.
Let's go somewhere to eat.
Like where?
I don't know, something distinctively Denison.
Why don't you define distinctively Denison?
Denny's?
You are trash. Oh, what about it's a really cool place called Watson's Burgers.
Dude, we can get a Whataburger in Houston anytime.
Idiot. Watson's Burgers. Watson's Burgers. In fact, interestingly enough, it was established in 1956 when Eisenhower was in office.
Hey, I'm Alan.
Brandon Watson. What's up, man? I'm Dustin.
Nice to meet you guys.
So you own this place?
Yes, sir. One and only.
Tell us a little about Watson's Hamburgers.
Oldest restaurant in the county, Grayson County. Been here since '56. I'm a third generation. The reason why we're still here is just fresh meat, hot food. My friends come in from Dallas and they're like, sometimes it's so hard just to get fresh, hot food. We just keep the tradition going on for all these years.
Alan and I grabbed some bacon cheeseburgers, some fries, some onion rings. That hit the spot. Not to mention, they've got some killer milkshakes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, man, that was good.
That's freaking good burger.
Yeah.
So,
I need a cigarette.
yeah, it was that good, huh?
That's that good. Yeah, I'm done.
All right, you ready to go to the next stop?
Yeah, where are we going?
We're going to Lake Texoma and the Denison Dam.
Okay.
So we got a guy meeting us over there. So, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's get out of here. All right, so we're here at Lake Texoma and the Denison Dam. This is Tommy Holder. Tommy, tell us what all is, like, how great is this Lake Texoma and how massive is this Denison Dam?
Okay, well, construction began at the Lake Texoma in 1939. The construction was completed in January of 1944, and at that time, the Denison Dam was the largest earthen dam in the world. It was primarily built for flood control, risk management, and it had actually 5 authorized purposes then. It was flood risk management, water supply, the production of hydropower, navigation improvement, and regulation of the Red River. In 1988, they added the 6th one, which an authorized purpose was recreation. It generates about 6 million visitors a year that come here to enjoy the water recreation opportunities. It's known as the striper capital of the world and also as the playground of the Southwest. And so, you know, you can come here to boat, you can come here to camp, you can come here to fish, any kind of water activities that you'd like to do, it's available.
So how old is the Denison Dam?
Well, we just celebrated our 75th anniversary.
Really? Can we check it out?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go.
So I take it this is one of the turbines from the dam?
Yes, sir. This is the original unit number 2 turbine. It was put in service back in 1949 and taken out of service in 2020. It actually weighs 110 ton when we set it here. This turbine has produced 8.5 million megawatt hours of electricity, which put that in perspective is enough power to completely power the city of New York for 2 years. It also, when you talk about water usage, if you was to cover the entire state of New Mexico with 1 foot of water, that's about equivalent to the water that this turbine has seen.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Thanks, Tommy. We've really
Thank you, sir.
appreciated it, man.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Much obliged.
Nice
Take
to
care.
meet you guys.
You got it. So we found this amazing Mexican restaurant called Rustico. Now I was calling it Rustico because, well, my accent was just a bit off that day. But along with amazing food and drinks, the owner, Felipe, is absolutely an awesome guy. So you're the owner of Rustico. What is Rustico all about?
Yeah, as an owner, we create an experience, a Destiny icon restaurant in Denison, Texas. We created a collection of artifacts from friends and different areas of Mexico. We have a tremendous amount of reputation, and our food is created by our chef and myself with a Latin flair.
Well, we're excited to be here, and this place looks fantastic. We can't wait to eat the food and check out what all Rustico has to offer. Bueno.
So here we are in Denison, Texas, the birthplace of President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
That's right. We are in downtown Denison, and actually it's a lot bigger than I anticipated. Very cool area. We're going to be going around all of Denison and checking out the place. But before we do that, I got to get something in me, man. I got to get some coffee, brother.
Like Italian coffee?
Italiano, I don't think so. This is Texas. So, no, not Italian coffee.
Eisenhower was German. They have Germans, they're going to have Italians.
The Germans and the Italians combined together to fight. That's interesting.
That's
but
true.
there's a cool place called CJ's.
Yes.
I was told it's really good coffee. Let's go check that place out.
I'm up for it. Let's go.
All right, come on. So in Denison, Texas, there are actually 2 locations of CJ's Coffee Cafe. Now this place has amazing coffee, really, really good specialty coffees, and they've got a ton of different items to choose from when it comes to your breakfast items, like muffins, or my personal favorite, cookies, and even espresso brownies. Get out of here. We're here at downtown Denison. We're going to be talking about Dwight D. Eisenhower, and before we get into too deep, too far into his life, let's start where everybody is sort of introduced to him, his military career. And people they typically think General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Obviously you have to start somewhere, but he wasn't a general until when?
He did not become a general until 2 months before Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And he was only a 1-star general. That means he only commanded a brigade, but I mean, again, he really wasn't a combat general. He was working for MacArthur, he was working for George C. Marshall, so he was not out on the field.
Yeah, and MacArthur and George C. Marshall really, they noticed how brilliant Dwight D. Eisenhower was. and they knew that he could be really utilized, but there was no war going on.
Correct.
You know, it had had World War I, and he was training soldiers. He wanted to go fight in France. They didn't let him go fight in France because they wanted him training soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, he was a good organizer, good manager. So this is where, and he was very good in diplomacy. So this is where his, his skills came in.
His diplomatic skills really came in after he became a 1-star general and 2-star, and then they moved him up to Supreme Allied Commander.
Right.
That's where the diplomatic skills come in. But before then, he's involved in North Africa.
Operation Torch took place on November 8, 1942.
Right.
Now, Joseph Stalin, he was the dictator of the Soviet Union, wanted a second front immediately to relieve them of the Germans. But, our guys were not ready. And, Eisenhower wanted the men trained. He didn't want to do like World War I, where the men were just thrown into the meat grinder. So, there was Operation Torch was to land on North Africa because the Germans and the Italians were fighting in Egypt at that time. The Battle of El Alamein was what turned things around in Egypt when Montgomery defeated Rommel.
Eisenhower has the success, moves on to what?
He moves on to Sicily. Now, this is where Eisenhower's diplomatic skills come in. There were, we talked about Stalin wanting the second front. Now, he had to juggle not only his own generals, but he also had to juggle Montgomery, who was British. He had to juggle Churchill and FDR and
all the politics.
Right. So now Churchill was saying that Sicily and Italy would be the soft underbelly of Europe. So, there was a discussion, should we go in Sicily, should we go in Greece? But the plan was, we'll go to Sicily and Italy, knock Italy out of the war. And that part worked. We did land in Sicily, Operation Husky, and then we landed in Italy, Operation Avalanche. And when we landed in Italy at Salerno, Italy, they surrendered, and then they switched sides. They got rid of Mussolini. So it was a good strategy to some extent, although the fighting in Italy was a lot tougher than expected. That's Anzio, for instance.
Right.
A brutal campaign. So. This is where Eisenhower's diplomatic skills came in. It's also where Patton got himself in trouble in Sicily, where he slapped those two soldiers. So he had to deal with Patton because he knew Patton was the guy who got stuff done.
And Patton and Eisenhower knew each other from way back, before the war started.
There were 2 slapping incidences. After that, he had to recall him. He eventually goes to England, where Patton was doing his diplomatic skills, which really were not that good.
Yeah.
But Eisenhower had to deal with all that. Montgomery had his own ego. Patton and Montgomery did not like each other.
Right.
But again, this is where Eisenhower's skills came in.
So there is your Eisenhower information on getting into World War II, North Africa campaign, the Italian campaign. We're going to get to D-Day later, but before we do that, we're going to head over to the Perrin Air Force Base Museum here in Denison, Texas. So you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
You want to take your coffee with you?
Of course.
Might as well.
Leave it here.
All
Good
right.
coffee.
Good coffee. All right, let's get out of here. Do the honors. Hey,
Good
there we go.
Welcome to Perrin Air Force Base Museum. This is our library. It's the largest military library in North Texas, and it's had a lot of history and everything in it. We have a lot of heroes on the door back there. I didn't know whether you saw those or not, but those were the people that made the Air Force and this base.
Okay, now you have an actual jet here that
In-
was
in the building, yes.
It's in the building, and you got it in the building.
Yeah,
Okay, I would love to see it.
okay. We can go back out the door here.
Alrighty. All right. So what's the story on this?
The plane is a T-37. It came from Shepherd Air Force Base. Took us 2 years to get it. It still belongs to the Air Force. Was went into service in 1959 in the Air Force and was decommissioned in 2005. This is a new addition to our museum. We just added 2 months ago. And this is where we're still working and putting more stuff up.
Okay. So what is this?
That is a drone, Israeli drone that was used as target drones And they'd put the drone up, let them shoot at it, and they knew where the anti-aircraft guns were, so they could knock out the anti-aircraft guns. The engine over here is a Rolls-Royce engine that was developed by the British in World War II. It was in their first jet. After the war was over, they sold the rights and everything to Russia, and the engine was put in the F-15 over in South Korea. In Korea, they fought the American jets, and so that jet actually wound up getting shot down a lot. And this one came out of a MiG-17 that we have here locally.
What is this? This looks like something from the First or Second World War.
This is from World War II, and people don't know, but this aircraft engine was used in all M4 Sherman tanks in World War II until June of 1944.
Quite impressive. Okay, so this is from a tank?
That's a tank.
That's a tank, okay.
And it's set up to run a tank.
All right.
Over here, you have a specialty that's very rare, not many of them left. This is a motor scooter that was dropped by parachute to the paratroopers during Operation Market Garden for transportation. It holds a whole quart of gasoline.
So now what is this?
The J-47 engine is the engine that was in the F-86 jet that fought the MiG.
Okay, in Korea.
In Korea.
All right.
It was used in about 15 or 20 different aircraft in the United States. You see pictures of the different aircraft here. There were 4 of them hanging on the wings of the B-36 that I showed you back there.
So now who is this gentleman right there?
That's Charlie Brown in Korea in 1951, and this is in October of 51 in the second shot. And that's my dad from all 3 of the wars, World War II, Korea and Vietnam, and my brother that was in no combat. He was a destroyer man until he got transferred to radio.
Okay, so now I heard Sullenberger, Sully, the famous Sully is over here somewhere. And he was from this area, correct?
He's from Denison, yes.
Okay, so this is him right here. And looks like a picture of him in Vietnam with an F-4 Phantom.
Yes.
So that's when he had, before his hair got all silver and gray. Flying the, for those who are not sure, he was the gentleman, I think he was a United pilot who landed his plane in the Hudson River, and there were no fatalities. Everybody survived, no fatalities. Tom Hanks played him in a movie, a Clint Eastwood directed movie, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right, very impressed. I know, we have some Tuskegee Airmen. There's a lot of history over here, so definitely a place to come visit if you go to Denison.
Okay.
Well, listen, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you all for coming out, and hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot more to see. It just takes so long.
Now, before we go, Mr. Charlie Brown, I got to ask you, what do you get paid to work at a place like this?
Well, we get peanuts sometimes.
Nice. Hey everyone, this is Vinny Rhodes. He's the owner of Bear Smokin' Barbecue. When did you get started, man?
I started this back in 2019. This is going to be our 3rd year anniversary this year.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
So we're looking forward to the barbecue, but I noticed the green, the yellow, and the Bears, right?
Didn't you play football for the Baylor Bears?
Yes, sir. Sick 'em for life.
Oh, yeah?
Now you played wide receiver?
No, I wish. I would love to think I was that fast. No, I was a defensive tackle.
Nice. All right. So what do we got on the plate today?
Man, so we got brisket, we got pulled pork, sausage, hot links, we do nachos, we have this thing called hash brown casserole. I promise it'll blow your minds a little bit.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it, man.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
You got it.
Whoa. That's going to fill us up.
Dude, give me that, and then we'll pray after I kick your, you know what. You want to come?
After great barbecue, great beer is definitely in order. So Alan and I headed over to Ivanhoe Ale Works to meet up with Gabe Parker and Samantha Lumpkins. Now, Ivanhoe Ale Works is actually inside of a building that is about 140 years old. It started out as the McDougal Opera House, and then about 50 to 60 years later, it turned into the Star Theater, a movie theater. Now it houses an incredible brewery, Ivanhoe Ale Works. This is the Knight's Latte, and I'll be honest with you, this is probably the best beer I've ever had. There's only one other one that sort of ties this, and this was in Scotland. It was the first beer I had in Scotland. This is absolutely delicious. I wanted to take a moment to say that, because this was absolutely stellar.
Well, I mean, this is the Ivanhoe PA, IPA. It's a damn good beer. I really enjoyed this.
I did have a treat for you. Our number one seller in our wine, our tasting room, is our sweet chilled Rose of Ivanhoe. And we do a real fun thing here in the tasting room called a jalapeno shooter. So I'm going to put that sweet red on top of those jalapenos, and the tartness of the peppers and the sweetness of the wine is going to create magic. You'll never be the same. This is truly a life-changing experience. What a face.
Man, the wine was good, but I had like half of that jalapeno slice still in my throat.
You know, I'm savoring it.
And I didn't want to bite it.
That is,
but that is a really cool.
yeah, it's kind of like having a martini with the
Well,
olives.
I tell everybody, think about being at home. You got your friends over. You're doing barbecue in the backyard. You got your jalapeno shooters.
Yeah.
You know, you got a party.
How's it going?
Good.
Buy you a drink?
I already have a drink.
Oh.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Aren't you the mayor?
I am. Why are you late?
We've got a table reserved right over there. We can have the conversation.
Okay, let's do it.
Great. You ready? Huh? No? You're never ready. Let's
Okay.
Come on, you.
Here we go.
All right. Let's go.
Okay, everybody. This is Mrs. Mayor of Denison.
Well, the politically correct salutation is Madam Mayor, but why don't you just call me Janet?
Well, we're not politically
Yeah,
correct.
come here a second.
Again,
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
okay, Janet, pleasure. Thank you for hosting us.
Absolutely.
Here, we
Well.
love this little town.
It's my pleasure.
So what makes Denison like a place to come to? It's a small town, but what is it that makes it a place for people to come to?
Well, our city is just full of history, and we are very proud and very protective of our historic buildings that still remain. It is that history and our value of those that make us special and unique.
How big of a deal is it that Eisenhower was born here, and how does the town of Denison celebrate that legacy?
Well, really now, there's no place else on the planet that can claim that Dwight Eisenhower was born in their city. His family moved here for a job because we were a railroad town. What you may not know is that his birthplace did not reflect Denison. It actually said Abilene, Kansas. And only after we reached out to him, well, actually, a lady here who remembers him reached out to him, did he legally change his birthplace, his birth certificate, to record Denison as his birthplace. And we celebrate throughout the year. He came here several times before he became president, and we have numerous events throughout the year. So if you're looking for a place that's special and unique, come visit us. You'll find lots of specialty shopping, unique dining, lots of places to have fun. You can visit the birthplace of Dwight David Eisenhower and you won't be disappointed. You can visit Lake Texoma or Hidden Hangar or 1880 Ice House. Have you been there? If you haven't, you've missed out. So there's lots of places. Come and hang out with us, and I guarantee you, you'll want to come back again.
So is this like Bohemian, like Czechoslovakia, or is this?
I don't know. It's Bohemian tacos, and I don't even know what that means.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking Edie Brickell and the new Bohemian.
I don't know what.
Maybe they're like a Bohemian
Tacos.
Rhapsody. It's Korea.
You gonna take my Bohemian Rhapsody?
You want?
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, guys?
Good to see you.
You too. How's it going?
See ya.
Good. So you are the owner of Frank and Lola's.
Well, I own it along with my wife.
There you go. And obviously Frank and Lola's. This is Chad.
That's
Chad
right.
and Kendall, right?
Chad and Kendall.
All right. What is the Frank and Lola's?
So Frank and Lola, they're actually our dogs.
We don't even know what to expect.
Yeah.
So let's go check it out.
Come on in.
Now listen, I don't have any cash or checks accepted.
Checks? Yeah.
Yeah, I like
No
how you
checks
set
allowed.
that joke up. Yeah, real good.
Hey, come on, you know. We need to discuss Normandy. We need to discuss Market Garden. We need to discuss Battle of Oge.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss with
Uh-huh.
Eisenhower.
Yeah.
But before we get doing that, we need again sustenance. We need coffee. We need brekkie.
Don't use that word around me.
Sorry.
You know.
Oh, look, Dungeons and Dragons. This is your.
No,
you still
this-
play?
No, Dice and Dragons. Actually, no, this is kind of interesting. This is where Doc Holliday had his office.
Yeah,
right
his
here in
dental
Denison,
office,
Texas.
right? For
Yeah.
about 3 weeks.
Yeah. Was it 3
Yeah.
weeks or I don't think it's a little bit longer than that.
I don't know, but he probably killed somebody while he was here.
You know, he wasn't that bad of a guy. That's Hollywood making him out to be this really monster. But no, Doc Holliday had his office here, and in fact, they have a festival here in Denison. I don't know if they called it the Doc Holliday Holiday or I don't know.
I don't know.
It's what, in April? Is it in April?
Yeah, but I don't think Hollywood has made him into a monster. I think they've made him into a bit of a god. You've seen
Well, that's
Tombstone.
true. Yeah, yeah.
So.
Yes, that is
All right.
true.
Well, we're here at Cafe Blackbird, and we've heard great things. So this is where we're gonna go because I gotta have some coffee and other things. What's up? How you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming in today. Good to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
All right. So, Cafe Blackbird. How long have you guys been open?
We've been in Denison for 1 year, but the business is 4 years old. We were in West Texas before we moved here.
Really?
Yeah, we love Denison.
This place is freaking awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, the owner of this property did an amazing restoration on this building. It was a really big project. It lasted a couple of years, I think.
Well, Alan and I, we have to have coffee. Like we don't get through the day without coffee. What all do you guys
That's how
serve?
we are. So we have a new coffee bar in the back. We serve really good espresso from a roaster in Dallas called Cultivar. But what we do here is we make fresh bread every day. We serve homemade sandwiches. We make cakes, pies, cookies, pastries all day long.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we're dying to have some.
Oh yeah, well come try. Make yourself at home.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to talk about the D-Day invasion, which is something that Dwight Eisenhower is most known for. He was Supreme Allied Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces. And we often say, okay, the weight of the free world is on the president's shoulders. Literally, the weight of the free world was on Ike's shoulders at the moment of early June to make the decision, do we do this D-Day invasion?
Correct. It was all on him. He was the final say. He was the one who made the final decision. It was supposed to be on June the 5th, but because the storms in the English Channel were so bad, he had to postpone it at least 24 hours when they found a window of opportunity. Had the mission failed, which was possible, he was prepared to, he had a note, a speech ready to put all the blame on him. Don't blame the soldiers and the sailors and the airmen, this is all on me. There had been previous invasions that had failed. Gallipoli is an example. There was a raid in France known as the Dieppe raid with the Canadians 2 years prior. So it was possible the invasion would fail. So we went in, he went ahead, he made a speech. He made a speech about the Great Crusade. He went and spoke to the individual divisions. We had 3 airborne divisions, 2 American, 1 British, and then we had the 5 beachheads. Omaha and Utah were the American, and then we had the British and the Canadians. So he said
it was a huge gamble.
It was a huge gamble.
It was a huge gamble.
Yeah,
because if the Germans had found out if they had gotten a whiff of it, it would have been an absolute disaster. And we talk about the Omaha Beach, and we talk about that pretty often. Like Omaha Beach was just cataclysmic.
It was so bad. They knew that it was going to be bad. That's why they used 2 divisions. Yeah. Utah had 1 division, but Omaha they had to use 2 divisions on that beach because they knew it was going to be a slaughter, and it was. And thank God we did not have social media back then, because they managed to keep it a secret. There were ways that they were letting them think that we're going to land in Calais. Yeah. They used Patton as a diversion.
This was the biggest amphibious invasion in history, and the Germans never got a whiff of it. In fact, Rommel went on vacation, right? It was his wife's birthday. You had Hitler, who was taking a 24-hour nap,
No, he was all drugged up.
Yeah, so they were just completely sort of blindsided by this taking place.
Right, I mean, like I said, had this failed, it would have set the Western Front back maybe another year.
Now, what does that say about the character of Eisenhower and the trust that people had in him to make that decision? Not just Americans or the American government trusting him to make that decision.
The whole world.
But
the whole world, all of Europe. I mean, Hitler occupied almost all of Europe. And so, this was a big deal. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if it failed, there was the thing with the Soviets that were coming in, because at the time the Soviets had the upper hand. So here's a scenario that a lot of people don't think about. Had the invasion failed and Germany was defeated by the Soviet Union, the Soviets could have kept going and captured the remainder of Western Europe on their own. And, there were 44 years of the Iron Curtain that the Soviets didn't relinquish. They could have had all of Europe for 40, 45 years. So, I mean, imagine what it would have looked like, how Europe would have looked like. So,
now, we ended up getting through Normandy. We got through France. We got through Belgium.
Okay.
How did we get through to the end of the war and do it successfully with everybody on board?
Well, it reminds me a little bit of George Washington, how Washington had to hold 13 different countries together. The colonies had to hold them together and keep them together because, believe me, they did not always get along with each other. Britain and France had a history of not liking each other. In fact, the Vichy French, when it was Vichy France, the Vichy French and the British were fighting each other in North Africa, in the Levant. So, I mean, that in and of itself was difficult. Then you had Polish, you had a Polish government exile, the Netherlands, you had the Norwegians. So you had all these different groups, Canadians, you had countries from around the world all contributing that Eisenhower had to keep them all together, keep them focused. Yeah. I mean, believe me, there were a lot of American soldiers and airmen in London that were courting the British women, and the Brits did not like that at all.
No, not at all.
So he had to keep all that together.
Us Americans. Yeah.
And then, but not only that, you also have to think about, you had Patton and you had Montgomery, who hated each other. Patton wanted to go right into Germany, but he had to stop because of logistics and the fact that Montgomery wanted to go into Holland for Operation Market Garden because the Germans were launching V1 and V2 rockets that were wreaking havoc on London. So, and Montgomery had this plan. That's where a bridge too far comes in. Market Garden, the plan was to go all the way, capture all these bridges, and then we would be able to cross the Rhine at Arnhem. If we had captured Arnhem and kept it, we were across the Rhine. That was the last great barrier into the heart of Germany. So theoretically, it would have been a good plan had it worked, but there were too many what-ifs. It failed, and it delayed the invasion into Germany. We had the Battle of the Bulge that took place in December, right around the time when Eisenhower got his 5th star. We won the Battle of the Bulge, and then we kept going, and then the last barrier, again, was the Rhine. We managed to cross it when one of the bridges at Remagen, the Ludendorff Bridge, failed to blow up. We cut in,
One bridge.
One bridge,
Yeah.
and then you know, Patton had his pontoon bridges. They started building pontoon bridges across the Rhine, and at that point, I mean, we were pouring into the heart of Germany, and the Soviets were coming in from the east. So you ended up having the Germans sandwiched in between. And now here's an interesting thing: is that Eisenhower knew that everybody wanted to capture Berlin. Everybody, the Americans, the British, the French, everyone wanted to go in there. But Eisenhower knew that was going to be a costly battle. I mean, there were, you know...
Yeah, he had reached out to Omar Bradley and was like, what do you think? And Omar Bradley said it could cost somewhere around 100,000 American casualties.
Correct.
And he goes, I think that's probably too stiff of a cost, you know, especially, because he said, especially since we're going to have to give a portion of it back to the Soviets anyway.
Right. I mean, they knew that was going to happen.
And that's another testament to Eisenhower, that he's the guy who has control over everything. He has the last say throughout this whole thing, and he listens to Omar Bradley, his subordinate.
Yes.
And he takes his word, and he's like, okay.
He was smart enough to let his generals, Bradley, Patton, Hodges, to plan the tactics. So he was not a tactician, he was a strategist. His job was to do the overall strategy, what's the overall end goal. But he was a great manager in that he let his generals do a lot of the thinking. They consulted with him. You know, like when the Battle of the Bulge took place, he's like, gentlemen, what are we going to do? And Patton was like, I can swing in 48 hours and go straight towards Bastogne. That was Patton's plan. And Eisenhower's like, if you can do it, go for it.
Do it. Yep.
So
the next conversation we're going to have is about Eisenhower's presidency and
what he
two
did.
terms.
Yeah, two terms.
And there was a reason why he won in landslide, victories.
Other than the fact that he went against Adlai Stevenson twice.
Sadly for Adlai.
Yeah.
All right.
I like that. Sadly for Adlai.
But before we have that conversation, Alan and I are stopping over at the place, the spot, the sole reason for us coming to Denison in the first place. That's right, the birthplace of Dwight D. Eisenhower. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
I'm Alan.
So where's the house?
It is actually straight up the hill on the left side. Can't miss it.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thank you.
No, you go that way. Go that way. Jump off the porch.
Hi.
What's up, man?
Welcome to the Eisenhower Birthplace State Historic Site. My name is John Akers. I'm the site manager here. Welcome. Let's go inside.
Yeah, man. We can't wait to check it out. Go ahead. All right, John. So we're in the Eisenhower Birthplace, the house where Dwight D. Eisenhower was born. How old is this house?
This house is 1877. It's when it first shows up in the tax rolls.
Yeah, so it's right next to the train tracks.
It is. So the house was built in 1877, and we know a year after it was built that this railroad line came through, went to Greenville, later on became part of the main line to Dallas, and so later on it was a very busy rail line.
Okay, now when did the Eisenhowers move in here?
So we know that David Eisenhower, this is Dwight's father, came here in October of 1888. We think that Ida, his mother, moved in with his two older brothers sometime in early 1889, after the second oldest son was old enough to travel.
So now y'all restored this to the 19th century, the look, the wallpaper. I went into the kitchen. You've got something that there's no microwave oven. It's definitely all cast iron. It's, obviously this was restored to you said not exactly to the way it was, but to the time period.
Well, that was the goal. I mean, so we were trying to restore this house to 1890. So that was the year that Dwight Eisenhower was born here. So when you come in, get a sense of what their life was like in that year. And you're right, there's no microwave oven, there's no refrigerator either.
There's no TV. Where's the stereo?
No.
I mean, come on.
There's a bookcase so in the parlor, so that was the entertainment.
Okay, now Dwight was born in this house. He was not born in a hospital. In this very house, correct?
That's correct. Denison did not have a hospital in 1890, so he was born in this house. There was a boarder that lived upstairs, and he got sent for the doctor. But according to Ida, who got interviewed in the 40s, she said the doctor got there too late. So Dr. Bailey came in to the bedroom where Dwight was born, and she saw Mom, new baby Dwight, and a room full of women, the neighbors of this neighborhood, who helped deliver the baby.
So how important is it for the town of Denison to claim Dwight D. Eisenhower sort of as their own?
Well, I tell people this place matters because it mattered to the people of Denison and North Texas during World War II. When word got out that Dwight Eisenhower was born here in 1942, the community immediately started an effort to raise the money to buy it. They succeeded in buying it in 1946, and they were just very proud that this Denison-born general was the one leading D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in history. Many people in North Texas serving the military, of course. It was a time of rationing and patriotism, so it was very important to them. So it was a big moment of pride when Eisenhower came here in 1946. And then in the 50s, when he ran for president, so it was kind of a bonus, right? We preserved the house for a general, and he became our 34th president of the United States. North Texas again rose to the effort to restore the house to its 1890 appearance. So the Eisenhower Birthplace State Historic Site is about 8 acres in size. It actually has 2 blocks of what was that working class neighborhood that David and Ida moved into 1888, 1889. We really focus on Denison and why the family was here. People want to know how he ended up being born in Texas. So we tell about his 3 visits. We talk about the restoration of the house. And we also talk about his career as a general and as a president.
So you guys have a fantastic statue out, just right out this, this window. When was that put in?
Well, the statue has a really great story to it. It is the first of 5 statues created by a sculptor named Robert Dean. And Robert Dean, when he started out, he went to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. So that's where Dwight graduated in 1915. Well, Robert Dean graduated in 1953. That date might sound familiar. That's the year that Eisenhower actually became president. So Dean marched in Eisenhower's inauguration parade. So he was part of the cadets from West Point. He later became a sculptor. So he did 5 statues of Eisenhower, and we have the oldest one.
Okay, I have a question for you. I don't know if this is something you're going to know. This is a little trivia. During one of Eisenhower's inaugurations, there was a famous entertainer on a horse that wanted to lasso Eisenhower.
That's right. So that was his first inauguration in 1953, and I forget the name of the gentleman that did it, but yes, there are photographs of the guy on the horse going up to the reviewing stand, and he lassoed the president, and yes, I understand that the Secret Service was a little nervous about that. Denison actually had a float in that parade, and so guess what their float was? It was a replica of this house.
Oh, really?
So I think the same parade, and the Denison High School Marching Band was there as well. So Denison was well represented, felt as part of the Texas thing, it's kind of, reminding Dwight of his Texas roots.
Right.
All right, man, where do you want to go eat? Hey!
What?
Would it be a crime against humanity for you to just help me figure some things out? Where do you want to go eat?
Denny's.
Unbelievable. What do you think about barbecue? I heard there's a really good place. Another really good place. A barbecue place here in Denison.
Fine. Okay. Because anything I say, you're going to veto anyway.
This is true.
All right, so fine. Let's go have barbecue.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Look, here's the thing. Alan and I, we're Texas boys. Therefore, we love barbecue. And when we hear that there's some really good barbecue around the corner, we're cutting around that corner and going and getting some. Hickory House is that type of place. Wow.
Oh, guys, how was everything today?
Oh man, this was delicious.
Thank you.
Yes. I mean,
As you can see,
That's what we
I'm-
like.
Yeah, I'm completely full.
well, good.
So how long has Hickory House been here?
We opened in 1975, so we're working on our 46th year.
Well, you guys are doing great.
it's better than anything I've had in Houston.
Well, thank you.
And I mean that.
Thank you.
So now I gotta ask, what's with the shirts?
Well, you know, we're just kind of a little mom and pop place, and we decided we're going to try to class it up a little bit. So bring a little, you know, and who knows, I might get asked after the prom or something too.
There you go.
No.
Yeah. You got the carnation already.
That's it.
Your wife wear a corsage here, or?
She's been known to.
All right.
Yeah.
She's had them on also.
All right, man. We've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having us.
Appreciate it.
Quick question: where's the Red River Railroad Museum?
Okay, just go over right up here, one block to Main Street.
All right. Sounds good. Well,
Thanks
we're heading
again.
that way right now.
We appreciate y'all.
Appreciate
it.
Can I ring the bell?
You can ring the bell, yes sir. We appreciate it.
Welcome to the Red River Railroad Museum in Denison, Texas. Hi, I'm David Reeder, and I'm going to give you a tour. We have a lot of railroad history, especially about the Katy Railway. The Katy actually founded the city of Denison. Back in, they were trying to get across the Red River, and they sent some people clandestinely to find land on the Texas side. They found the land, they bought it up, nobody knew who they were, and the city of Denison was founded. The city of Denison got its name from George Denison, who was the vice president of the Katy Railway at the time.
Now, obviously, Dwight D. Eisenhower, he's the one who has made this town pretty famous. You know,
Yes.
after the railroad sort of blew up the town and made it pretty prosperous, and then you had Dwight D. Eisenhower, born at 1890. Well, you've got this tie-in.
In 1952, the Denison High School band was invited, obviously, to play at Eisenhower's inauguration. And we have a lot of pictures of the past of the Katy Railway and the old steam engines. Katy was just so instrumental in the things that they brought to Denison. And if you take time to look in the media room at all the pictures, we'll pretty much take you step by step through the Katy Railway and Denison, Texas.
David, thanks again for having us. We really
Great.
appreciate it.
Great to have you come back and visit us again.
Absolutely. And next time we'll try to have Alan show up.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
He just vanished.
Well, where have you been?
I've been working on the railroad.
Oh.
All the live long day.
Well, till then, we'll take.
See you.
Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And yes, that's yours. Take that with you. Thank you, guys.
So after hanging out at the Railroad Museum, Alan and I are heading on over to, no, that's not an undisclosed location. That's actually Iron Root Republic Distillery. We're meeting up with one of the owners to discuss exactly what Iron Root is doing to become #1 in the world for their bourbon. #1 in the world, beating out Tennessee and Kentucky. Come on.
Welcome to Iron Root.
Dude, we've heard that this place, one, is stellar, and you guys are #1 bourbon?
Yeah, we've won Best Bourbon in the World in 2020 with our 115 proof bourbon.
Get out of here, man.
I
And
got
this
it.
is Texas.
Yeah, in Denison, Texas.
Yeah, I was gonna say bourbon. You're gonna have to tell us about that because I thought bourbons can only be made in Kentucky.
They like to tell you that, but it can be made anywhere in the U.S. and Puerto Rico, technically.
Really?
So, yeah.
Puerto Rican bourbon. I've never heard of
Well,
that.
I'm not traveling
No one's
all the
made
way
it
to
yet.
Puerto Rico, yeah.
Maybe one day that's what I'll do. We'll get
Yeah,
some
that's
Puerto
our
Rican-
next trip, Puerto Rico, right? Is this where everything is made?
Yeah, everything's made. We've got our giant pot still over here. His name's Jim Bowie because the joke is that he came from Kentucky and hopefully he's going to die in Texas. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
And die drunk, too.
yeah. plenty of booze flowing through them at that point.
So how long have you guys been in business?
So we've been in business since 2014. So we're a relatively young distillery. But my brother and I were actually trained before that by Nancy Fraley and Hubert Germain Robon, who's a master cognac distiller. And so everything we do here is actually based on traditional cognac style distilling and cognac maturation. So we're quite a bit different than our brethren up in Kentucky or even some of the guys here in Texas as well. So
now, do y'all use barrels here? Or?
Oh yeah, yeah. So we use a bunch of barrels. So the back half of the building's all barrels. A bunch of different types of oak that we like to use. Create some really, really fun flavors. So
can we see that?
Oh yeah, let's head back.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
This is my favorite place in the entire distillery.
Oh man. Yeah.
This is beautiful.
And just the aroma in this room is amazing.
Yeah. I wish I could capture it.
This is where the real magic happens in the distillery. This is where that whiskey is going to go from clear liquid that you get off the still to turn that deep, dark, mahogany-colored spirit that we all like to drink.
Wow.
Does the color of the barrel, the wood matter?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, so the whiskey, like all of the color is actually coming out of the wood itself. So most of the flavor when it comes to bourbon comes from the barrel. So really the most important part of the entire process is happening in this room. When it comes to bourbon, bourbon has to be put in a brand new charred oak container. So it's gonna be a brand new barrel every single time when it comes to bourbon. Right now we've got about 900 barrels in here. So and there's about 200 bottles in every barrel. So it kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what you're dealing with.
200 bottles per barrel, or 900 barrels, and your number one. We got to taste it.
Yeah, let's go pour some whiskey.
Let's do that. That bourbon did not disappoint. Iron Root Republic is doing some fantastic work to put Texas on the whiskey map.
I'm Aaron.
Aaron, I'm Dustin.
Hey, I'm Alan. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, man. All right, the Blonde Bombshell.
It's a military themed bar. We've got our awesome mural here with a T-10 Delta parachute. So it's not a real parachute, by the way. People love it.
Now, was this your parachute?
No, it wasn't mine per se, but it was somebody's.
All right, but you were in the Air Force, right?
I was a combat controller for 8 years.
So that's sort of like the theme. It's sort of the theme is coming a bit from you, right?
Yeah, it is. We got out, we wanted an idea to have a cool place to eat and hang out, and we just wanted something to give back to the community, especially veterans. We thought, a military themed bar would be something cool. Come on in, let's go take a look.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's our final day in Denison, Texas, the birthplace of Dwight David Eisenhower, the great man, the great military leader, the great president, an American icon. Speaking of icons, no, I'm not talking about myself or Alan. We're talking about Nick's Family Restaurant. This place is a Denison icon, known for its awesome staff and incredible breakfast. It was really good.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Pancakes were out of control.
Yeah, I like the idea of the chocolate chip with peanut butter.
Yes.
That's
my favorite. I tell everybody about them.
It's my favorite now.
Well, I'm glad y'all enjoyed it.
Now, we talked to some of the customers. They said it's always packed.
Yeah, I told that.
So how long have you guys been in business?
18 years will be in December.
Wow.
You know, we heard an interesting story that there was a guy who had a stroke, crashed his vehicle into this diner. Y'all were closed for 3 months, and y'all still paid the employees here. That's
That's an awesome business.
That's awesome. Yeah, that really is.
They're our second family, so we want to make sure they stay with us, and they did.
Yeah, that's a great way to win loyalty. And now listen, I'll tell you, the food was good. I asked a couple of people, you know, what they like, and there was one guy who was like, oh, I eat the same thing here, and I'm here
All the
almost
time.
every day.
And we remember their order.
Yeah.
It's funny, we do.
Yeah, so, and then several other people, same thing. They were raving about the food here, so.
We try to do our best. I mean, we're not perfect, but make sure.
But you're second generation owner. Your dad owns this.
My dad started it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. Well, Yoda, it was
It was nice meeting you too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you
We really
coming.
love it.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna, when I come back, I'll order the chocolate
better.
chip pancakes again with peanut butter.
You gotta try other stuff too.
Well, yeah, but you know, when you really, really like something.
Yeah, you don't want to change.
Yeah.
You're like the other customers.
All right, so we should have a shootout since that's the Red River.
You know, I'm from Oklahoma. I was born there.
Oh yeah, I wish you were still there. Anyways, we're on Carpenter's Bluff Bridge. We're going to talk about Eisenhower's presidency.
Yes.
And to an extent, what led up to it.
Yeah, he had quite a bit of accomplishments. You know, he won or helped win the European War against Nazi Germany. He was the Supreme Allied Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force, which meant he had overall command of the United States, Canada, Britain, all the Allied nations on the Western Front. And then he carried on that power when he became the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO when the Cold War started.
And then, to top everything off, president of Columbia University.
Yeah, not bad for an Ivy League school, you know.
There you go. And an old, Texas native.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then he was elected
in
1952. Richard Nixon was his running mate on the Republican ticket. They won Texas. In fact, they won a majority of the states. It was a landslide against Adlai Stevenson. Funny thing is that 4 years later in the 56 election, it was the same thing. Eisenhower ran against Adlai Stevenson. Same result, only Eisenhower actually gained a few more states in the 56 election.
You know, it's funny, during his time, you're having the height of the Cold War.
Correct.
You know, the guy who was the president prior to Eisenhower was Truman. The Korean War had broken out over there. That was one of his campaign promises in 52 was, I will go to Korea.
Yeah.
And he did that. And shortly after he became president, well, two things happened. He became president, Stalin died, and the Korean War ended in July of 53. But there were some other things that he did that sort of was that push against communism.
Well, yeah, during this era, there was a lot of communism being spread around the world. Now, in 54, the French lost Indochina, and so you had, Laos, Cambodia, North and South Vietnam were created. And, he gave a lot of money and aid to South Vietnam to aid them because they were the anti-communist government. You also had Taiwan. There were some moments, especially in 58, when we almost went to war with Red China over the defense of Taiwan, also known as Formosa. There were other things going on. Berlin. This was when, the Soviets were, the Berlin Wall hadn't been built by this time, but they were applying a lot of pressure to kick the French, British, and Americans out of Berlin, and he stood firm and prevented it.
And we have to keep in mind the reason why we were there and the British were there and the French were there is that Germany had been broken up after the war.
Yeah, it was partitioned in 4 different ways, and then you had Berlin was partitioned in 4 sections.
Yeah.
So he stood firm against the Soviets. They wanted to kick him out. Now there were other accomplishments. The interstate highway system. That's because of Eisenhower. He started NASA. He signed the bill to create NASA.
Yeah, he did that in 1958.
Yeah. And now the year before that, he signed the Civil Rights Bill. There was a big thing going on in Arkansas, and he made sure that the federal government supported the Supreme Court, make sure that the schools were not going to be segregated. So, he was behind all that. In 1956, he had the Suez Crisis.
Yeah.
Now, Eisenhower was not a big fan of colonialism, and he was working with some of the countries to rid themselves of colonialism, being that, we were once a colonial country, and we wanted to rid ourselves of European domination. So, he worked with Egypt. He worked with several countries to get them, their freedom. Now in 1956, when Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, the British were
He was the leader of Egypt.
He was the president of Egypt at the time. So Britain and France were major shareholders of the Suez Canal. So when it was nationalized, they were like, this is not going to work. So Israel invaded the Sinai. You had shipping closed to Israel by Egypt. So Israel responded. They invaded the Sinai. And Britain and France used that as an excuse to invade the Suez Canal area. It became a big mess. But Eisenhower, based on his principles, stood firm, and he told Britain and France and Israel that they need to withdraw. He was not about to let Britain and France retake the Suez Canal. Unfortunately, there was also a crisis in Hungary at the time. The Hungarians kicked the communists out, but the Soviets invaded Hungary, and this angered Eisenhower because he felt that the West had no moral standing to defend the Hungarians against the Soviets if we were going into Egypt. So that led to a change of power in England and France. The following year, now this is after he was reelected, he created what was known as the Eisenhower Doctrine. Now the Eisenhower Doctrine was that any Middle Eastern nation, if they need help, whether it's us fighting or whether it's us providing aid, we will do it. We'll give them aid. And so in July 15th of 1958, the U.S. Marines went into Lebanon to help support the government there, the pro-Western government, against Nasser and Syria. At the time they were united. It was known as the United Arab Republic. He kept us out of war. So many times we could have gone to war with either Red China or the Soviet Union, but he had a cool head and he kept us out. Even the U-2 incident with Francis Scary Powers, that was a major embarrassment for him, but it didn't lead to a conflict.
So 2 terms in office, and at the end, he gave his farewell address, which has become one of the most famous speeches in American history.
Right. He warned the American people about the military-industrial complex. That was one of his last parting shots. To warn America, don't let policy be run by wars. Don't let the people who create the military hardware lead us into wars so that we can keep those companies going. And like I said, he kept us out of war. There were chances, there were opportunities to go to war. He saw what war did. He saw Europe in 1944 and 45. What war does to the world.
Right.
So he was, he just wanted to make sure that it didn't happen. Now, as he was leaving office, he also aided John F. Kennedy as the president, that's what's so great about America, because his running mate, Richard Nixon, ran against John Kennedy. Nixon was defeated by Kennedy, and instead of just saying, you know what, I'm not going to help you out, he aided his friend's Victor, aided him into transitioning into the government and running the federal government.
So, Supreme Allied Commander, NATO Commander, Columbia University President, and 2-term President. He had all this power, and he never got a big head.
Yeah, there is kind of a big head over here in Denison. Did you see this big statue of him?
No.
Well, let's go see it then.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, there's a big statue of him. It's big head.
Just his
big head.
Okay.
Yeah, big head.
All right, let's go check out that big head.
All right, let's go this way.
Let's go, big head. It's pretty cool that there's a major Texas connection to World War II.
There is, in fact. Now, in the European theater of operations, there were 2 commanders. You had Dwight Eisenhower, who led the Army, and you had Ernest King, who led the Navy. Now, as you know, Eisenhower was born in Texas. But let's look over in the Pacific theater. The 2 big guys, General Douglas MacArthur for the Army, but for the Navy was Chester Nimitz. And
so where was, and Chester Nimitz is
born in Texas.
Where?
Fredericksburg.
Well, let's go to Fredericksburg.
Why not?
Let's go.
All right.
Yeah. All right. To Fredericksburg.
Oh, a good coffee place up ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
You have some coffee you want?
Yeah, I want some coffee, man.
Well,
Italian
let's go
coffee.
get some coffee.
Trying to look for Tex Hill. There he is. Tex Hill.
Yeah.
Was he wearing this at the time?
I wasn't with him.
Very much. Denison, Texas is a place to be. Okay.
Yeah. There's some boxes right there. There we go. Let's go.
And enjoy your steak. No, I'm not going to do